We're using the wrong scoreboard for life. So I've been thinking about something lately that I wanted to share, and that is I feel like there is a problem with the way we measure life in modern society. And that problem is most of us are measuring our lives by a scoreboard that we never consciously chose. So somewhere between childhood and now, we've been taught to measure our life through neat metrics and milestones. And these have ended up creating some sort of hidden scoreboard in our society that we all seem to measure our lives by. So, what's on this scoreboard of life? The biggest thing that I'm sure you're all thinking of is money. That's one of the things in this scoreboard. What else is there? There's materials, your assets, how nice is your house, how nice is your car, what brand of clothes are you wearing, things like that. Also, your status. But status not as in how many friends you really have or how connected you are with your community, but status in terms of how many social media followers do you have? Or, for example, your job status. What's your job? And what's your position within that job? Are you junior? Are you senior? Are you an executive? And also things like productivity, how many hours you work. So, all of these things, money, materials, social validation, they all seem to make up big parts of this hidden scoreboard in our society. But there's a big problem with this scoreboard. I want you to think about some of the most beautiful and memorable moments of your life. For me, if I just think about that now, I'd probably come up with things like, so recently I woke up early and I went for a run with a close friend I haven't seen in a while. And it felt amazing, right? I seized the day, I got to catch up with an old friend, and by the end of the run, I just felt this huge innate sense of accomplishment that I had pushed myself through this run. And I'm sure you all know that feeling, for example, after a long run or a workout, and you feel so deeply satisfied with what you've done. Or when you travel to a new place and you feel a deep sense of wanderlust and you experience a culture that you never knew existed. You try a new combination of flavors you never even knew could taste this good. Or you watch a great movie, right? And you're relating to all of the characters and the world melts away around you. And by the end of the movie, you feel like a changed person. You feel like a brand new person. You feel like that movie changed your life. Or you listen to a beautiful piece of music and suddenly you don't feel so alone in the world. Or you just finish a long hike and you reach the lookout and you just see this beautiful, expansive piece of nature and you just feel this deep, sublime feeling inside you that this is the most awe-inspiring piece of beauty you've ever seen in your entire life. Or what about those moments in school when one of your friends says a stupid joke, right? But you're all adding on to the joke and before you know it, you're laughing until your stomach hurts. Or maybe the person you're dating says, I love you for the first time. And I'm sure you can think of many other examples of beautiful and amazing and memorable moments in your own life. But when I thought about these beautiful moments, I noticed one thing. All of these moments seem to fall outside of this scoreboard that we've used to measure life. And it made me think, if all of the most beautiful, joyful moments of life exist outside of the scoreboard, then of what use is the scoreboard? So think about your childhood for a second. As kids, there was no scoreboard, right? We could not for the life of us name any scoreboard that we were living our lives by. There were only things like play, curiosity, intuition, connection, love, and joy. And when we grow up, we're told, welcome to adulting. And suddenly we find that we spend all this time and effort chasing a bunch of imaginary metrics on an imaginary scoreboard. But I think there's a cruel irony to this because we spend years, if not decades, of time and effort and stress striving towards all of these imaginary things on this imaginary scoreboard. But then only on the other end of it, we'll stop and we start reminiscing over our childlike joy. And you often hear people talk about this, and I'm definitely guilty of this. We talk about our childlike joy and childlike wonder and our childhood as if it was some sort of magical time in our life, as if it was a time where we had no stress and we had pure joy. And so what happens is we chase all of these things on the imaginary scoreboard and we end up losing our childlike joy. And then on the other end of it, we'll now try to recreate our childlike joy with money and status. But unfortunately, with childlike joy, as well as all of the most beautiful and memorable moments of our lives, we can't buy those things. Although there might be some sense that we can, but we can't. And what happens when we move into adulthood and we start using this scoreboard is that we've substituted things. We substituted the idea of wanting freedom and abundance. We substituted that for money. We've substituted the idea of love and connection, and we've substituted that for social validation and social media followers. We wanted meaning and joy and things that excite us, and we've substituted that with a job status. And I think we can tell by now that clearly this doesn't work. These substitutes aren't working. But there must be some method to the madness. There must be some reason that we use a scoreboard. And I think the reason, sadly, is because we're simply products of our society. As kids in school, how are we taught to measure our worth as students? We measure our worth as students through our grades, through a quantifiable metric, and this would be a number or a letter. Then it's only natural as we go through this system to feel like we should measure everything else in our life by these clear quantifiable metrics. And this idea has been exploited by advertising, which pushes the idea to us that we really need more materials, more brands, more houses, more cars to be happy. And also by social media and the social media algorithm. But I think also another reason is we are simply born into a society where it feels like everyone else is doing it too. And I guess as human beings, it is in our nature to want to fit in. So we feel like it is normal to use this scoreboard to measure our life, and we end up adopting it as our own. But we never chose this scoreboard. So why do we think that it's the correct scoreboard for us? So what should we do then? How should we even measure our lives? What's the point of this whole experience? I think we already know the point of life. And when I started thinking about all the beautiful moments in my life, I started to realize maybe that was the point. Maybe the point of life is the art and the beauty and the love and the joy. Maybe that's the point. Maybe the point is all the things that we can't measure neatly. Because if it wasn't, why would those things be in the greatest moments of our lives? So I think we need a paradigm shift with the way we approach life and we measure life. And we need to be brave and realize that the best things in life cannot be neatly measured. And that's okay.